Resuming debate, reprise de débat, the honourable member for Brantford-Brant.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to start by saying what an honour and privilege it is to rise for the first time in our fall session and to speak to a topic that I have had the privilege of participating in largely throughout the summer, but for the past year or so in numerous committees. This has been a topic that has dominated the landscape of Canadian politics, and I want to pick up where my colleague just left off in terms of the themes of my speech, and it'll be largely about trust and accountability, because this particular scandal, and there's been so many scandals that have been at the heart of this corrupt Liberal government, but this one in particular strikes at the heart of Canadians that I have spoken to from across this country as to how poorly our procurement system is and how much trust and how much chaos has been created by individuals who should be taking responsibility and providing the proper oversight, but clearly did not. So let's focus on GC strategies. And I know the Liberal members will probably not like what I'm about to say, because I was often interrupted in numerous committees, but out of the words of Christian Firth himself, he specifically chose the name GC strategies for a purpose. GC stands for the Government of Canada. And I think it's important to highlight that here in the House and to share that with Canadians, because it exemplifies the type of rotten, improper relationship that Christian Firth has had with the Government of Canada. What started off, and I don't need to hear chirping, Madam Speaker, perhaps you want to address those individuals who should know better. They're certainly not new to Parliament, but I'm sure, and I'm used to their interruptions, but I'll continue. Christian Firth, a two-person firm who operates with no bricks and mortar, largely operating out of their basement, was essentially performing the services that could have and should have been performed by Canada's professional public service. He was essentially a recruiter. He did not perform any IT work, did not perform any technical or discharged any technical experience with the creation of the app. He merely connected the CBSA and other federal departments with professionals in the Ottawa area and surrounding area to create the app that was originally estimated to cost Canadians $80,000. He literally opened up his Rolodex, his contact sheet, and found the individuals that the government required to work with. That particular question was put by me on numerous occasions, Madam Speaker, to a number of professionals who testified at committee, particularly the union heads of several organizations that speak to Canada's professional public service. Not only did they confirm to me that the recruitment could have been done in-house, but the actual creation of this almost $60 million, approximate almost $60 million boondoggle of an ineffective app could have been done in-house. But instead, the government claims this was a pandemic, we had to move fast, corners were cut, no documentation saved, no one accepting responsibility. We have the Auditor General who basically says the pandemic is no excuse for throwing out basic accounting principles. And I highlight her summary that the best that she could glean with the scattered documentation she was able to receive allowed her to put an estimate of $60 million. So this is precisely why this motion is appropriate in terms of its timing, but also relevant in its purpose, because we need to have a more accurate picture as to how many more millions of dollars were funneled to GC Strategies to pad the pocket of other insiders, other individuals who actually did no work. We know the Procurement General has already estimated that 76% of all subcontractors who were hired, who were paid by taxpayer funds to work on the app, did no work on the app. This is precisely why the opposition parties all voted in favor of the government to provide us with a detailed blueprint as to how they were going to recoup the millions of dollars that were wasted with no oversight, no accountability. And the committee work that we've worked on, Madam Speaker, clearly has shown and has demonstrated to Canadians that there is a significant trust issue with how the Government of Canada is operating and procuring with outside consultants. We know the Prime Minister promised in 2015 that he would reduce the amount of outside consultants to work with the Government of Canada, but that certainly hasn't been the case. My colleague who just spoke previous to me was quite accurate in stating over 20 billion taxpayer dollars had been sent to outside consultants. That's taxpayer money that should not have been spent foolishly without the checks and balances. It's precisely why, Madam Speaker, that I have pursued a line of questioning to examine not only the wasted billions of dollars, but also to explore the criminality behind the operations of GC Strategies. And I just want to pause for a moment on that issue, because we also heard evidence at committees that long after, within a couple of years after his work, this is Christian Firth's work on the ArriveCan app, he was working with a small software company in Montreal named Bottler. And his handling of Bottler also raised national headlines and brought to light just how inappropriate and how loose and free Mr. Firth was with our criminal laws. Case in point, to justify the government working with Bottler to work on an app that I believe it was the Justice Department was interested at the time, he took the resumes of the two founders of Bottler and determined that their experience was insufficient. So he admitted under oath on a few occasions at committee that he deliberately and intentionally altered the details of their resumes to ensure they reached a certain threshold for qualification. Now, as a former justice participant, Madam Speaker, that is outright fraud. Not only is it fraud, it is forgery. I've been pushing the RCMP to investigate Christian Firth on that point alone, in addition to his ill-gotten gains with respect to the ArriveCan app. So let this point sink in. A person who performs no professional work, merely makes a connection with the Government of Canada and an IT professional in the comfort of his basement, perhaps on a nice taxpayer-funded leather couch, watching television on a nice 100-inch screen, received $20 million of taxpayer funds. As I've often said in this House and at committee, talk about hitting the taxpayer lottery. So it's no small wonder that when the RCMP commissioner testified at committee, he would not get into the particulars as to what criminal charges the RCMP were investigating as it relates to Christian Firth and his partner on the ArriveCan scam, but did indicate that there was an open investigation. Moreover, also confirmed to me that there were at least another half-dozen investigations into the Arrive scam scandal. Christian Firth, am I done? I'm done. I could speak for hours on this issue, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I'm sure the honourable member will be able to continue to add. I'm sure the honourable member will be able to add during questions and comments, and I do apologize for not flagging the 1-minute mark for him. Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary at the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. There is one major fundamental flaw in terms of what it is that the member is trying to portray, and that is through attempting to mislead Canadians, quite frankly. The member knows full well that inappropriate behaviour has not been condoned in any form by this government. And in fact, when it was discovered that there was inappropriate behavior, that the government acted quickly in terms of ensuring that there was a process to ensure to Canadians, to the taxpayers, that there would be accountability and there will be a consequence to those that have violated the procedures that are in place to protect the taxpayer. The member intentionally tries to give this impression that it is the Liberal Party or the government, the politicians, that have actually not protected the interests of the taxpayer, when that's just not true. If you want to look at a scandal where you had politicians trying to cover up, take a look at the ETS $400 million scandal of the Harper era, where the Conservatives across the way are absolutely silent on.
The Honourable Member Brantford Brant.
If the member wishes to look in the mirror, he will see inappropriate behavior, not only by him, but the entire government. This government has done nothing other than try to hide, try to obfuscate, try to distance himself from this scandal. It was that Liberal Party who voted down, every single member voted down, the Auditor General investigating the ArriveCan scam. That was November the 2nd, 2022. Over the course of numerous committees, it was that Liberal Party who routinely shut down debate, refusing to hear from the Auditor General, refusing to hear from the RCMP Commissioner. So yes, I do blame them. They are responsible, and their ministers refuse to accept responsibility for this boondoggle.
Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Terrebonne.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his speech and for his work on the ArriveCan file. He interrogated witnesses in an efficient way. It's always a pleasure to work with him. However, there's a certain trend in amongst the Conservatives. There's been an increase in additional requests made to the Auditor General on top of the work that their office already does. In this case, if the Conservatives were to be the next government, would they increase the budget of the Auditor General?
Member for Brantford Brant.
When the leader of the Conservative Party forms government, and he will, and become Canada's next Prime Minister, we will ensure that all of these scandals are fully explored, and we will indeed ensure that resources are available to the Auditor General to ensure she can complete her job and provide a more fulsome picture as to how much more this government has fleeced the taxpayer. We know it's approximately $60 million. Madam Speaker, that is the tip of the iceberg. We need to find out more.
Comments? We have time for a brief question.